Hello, everybody. Hey, welcome back to Standard Switch Adapted Toys. We're going to be doing the Fisher Price Narwhal, so by part of the Linkables group, I think it is. And this is going to be kind of an interesting one. So it has three inputs: music, ABC, and questions, which operates off this wheel. So if you want to do all three of them, we'll give that a try too, but I'm pretty confident that we can do these two. The biggest challenge we're going to have to this is getting inside. Okay. It was simple enough in one sense that I removed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 screws. Sounds about right. This one here in the center of the swirl. You see that triangle shape? That is one of the security screws, and that has got to be, you'd have to remove that in order to do this. To get inside, it is a S2 triangular shaped screw tip. I don't know if I can focus on that. Anyway, it's a 3-point, not a 4-point, so that it fits into there. And the second big challenge for this is not only do they not want you inside, they did this. They don't want you inside because they put these components in, and these would just slip together, snap together. And you can see here, in order for me to get inside, I had to pry them out. I used a flat screwdriver, backed it up by using a couple of these here trim tools for opening up small electrical devices, electronic devices, prying that into here, and just basically forcing that open. So you're not going to see me open this from its start because this was a bit of a struggle. But once you get to that point, get it opened up, we're going to grab that screwdriver again so we can pull that screw out of here. And I think here's why they do not want you opening this toy up. I'm going to remove this back now. And it has got, it's wired. And it has got a interesting device. These contact points, because this is a wheel and it rotates, these contact points rub on this disc here, and it's going to be lubricated. They got a electrical grease that they put on that to lubricate it, gives it a long life, and that is could be sensitive. You damage these, the toy's damaged. So when you open it up, you want to be very careful in prying those connection points out that I demonstrated earlier in order to get to that. Removing this off of here, I'm going to squeeze the electrical connection here in order to set this aside while we work. So that's out of the way. I'm going to pull this wheel off. It sets on a spindle, and it has got dielectric grease on the other side also, or lubricating grease anyway, so that it can spin. So I'm going to set that to the side. So the buttons, ABC, music, and the question button. Okay. See, I'm going to move something here. Okay. So ABC, music, and the question button. So you need to decide how many of these or which ones you want to adapt. See, the two that we went to fix here line up with these silicone points on the back of this circuit board and our switches on the other side. Seeing these silicone points, here's some telltales. Seeing these silicone points tells me that it is a circuit mounted switch on the other side. PCB printed circuit board integrated switch on the other side. And to get to that, we're going to take the on-off switch, set it out of the way. I'm going to remove this connector, which is the battery connector. And you need to do that because otherwise things are just a little too tight. Pinch it back and pop it off of there. Once you've done that, you can just about freely move this out of the way, but Fisher Price uses a lot of glue. So there's some glue down in here, right at that seam, and it may interfere with you pulling that battery pack up. I'll tell you what, let's not pull it up yet. It'll come up much easier here in just a moment. Since our work has to be done on the other side of the circuit board, we've got that wire disconnected. Oh, look, before we get any further, these two switches here that I talked about, 1 and 2, 1 and 2 are right here. The third switch is behind this dial. So we're not going to open up that dial and tinker with that. Instead, if you look at these gray wires that go to the circuit board, if you choose to hook up an adaptive cable switch to it from here, I believe we can do the work on the other side just by taking advantage of the fact that the wiring goes through the circuit board and is soldered on the other side, which is where we're going to do our work anyway. So we have 1, 2, 3 connection points. Let's go find them. Out comes the 1 screw. There's 3 screws that hold the circuit board in place. Okay, and now that we've gotten that circuit board loosened up, let's see, can't get that screw out of there quite yet. Let's see if this helps. It did. Okay, so there's our 3 screws for that. Now that we've got the circuit board loosened up, this is free and can be easily set to the side while we continue working. Let's see, I guess that's far enough to the side. So we've got a lot of wiring here that's by intention. You can see why we decided to move the battery pack out of the way. And let's see how successful we are at turning this over and identifying our connections. Those 2 wires that run from this switch are right here. And they are, let's see if I can find a little more direct pointer here. Pencil is going to do it, I think, this time. I'm having trouble keeping orientation on the circuit board is uniform for you, but it's a solder connection point here and here. Okay. So when you're looking at the, here we go, these 2 points right here and right here. So if we wanted to activate, we could add a switch, remote switch to those 2 points. The other ones under here and under here. So we need to pry up these silicone pads, and I think we could push them through very well. But if we're gentle about it, we can pry that up. I'm going to do it there, and I'm not going to take it off completely. I'm just going to twist it around. So is there anywhere, let's see, just do this one too. I'm going to look at this and I'm going to try and figure out, I haven't pulled these pads off yet or looked at them over real carefully, but I'm wondering, that says TP 39 to that isolated area there, that clear area there. And this says TP 40 to that one. And this is, if we follow if we follow the tracking on this, on these two switches, try and get that. I'm having trouble getting it to focus. See if I can turn that off. Does that help? It kind of does. This outside ring here to the right comes over and it goes right here to this pad. Okay, so that's one half of that switch. I'm going to come over here to this one. I believe that this side, the far side of this switch, comes over and it goes to this pad. The rest of this goes to what is common. So if we can find a place that's common to solder, then we don't have to solder underneath here. We can solder to here, one side of our wire, and the other side we'll find a common place. For this other switch, we're going to solder here, and then we're going to find what's common out here and see if we can find it to solder the other side. And as I was pointing out earlier, here and here are both sides of the switch that go over to the dial. Okay. So I want to find out. It really does look like it. It really does look like it comes out to that pad, to that solder point. That would be great. That way we don't have to mess around underneath here. This is ground or common. This one definitely comes out to this pad, solder point, and the other side goes to common. But I don't really see a place yet where I can solder the other side of that wire to. Oh, wait a minute, wait a minute. I've determined, let's look logic here for a moment. This wire, this side of this, these two wires I pointed out were for the dial. This one says TP42, but I believe this one is out in ground or in common territory. I wonder if I can jump across here and here to activate this switch, and jump across here and also back to this point to activate this switch. We're going to give that a good serious look. Okay, so for testing of that, let's see. I'm going to put that battery pack back on here so that we can have power, we can have reaction. There's our reaction. I'm going to grab my ever popular, where did I have it? I had it just here a moment ago. The hacker's secret weapon, right? What is the hacker's secret weapon? Oh, it's a paperclip. I'm thinking, or a probably more flexible than that. Let's see if I have a wire that I can use. There's a section of wire. Let's do that. The secret weapon would be a paper clip if things were close together. We've got a section of wire here we're going to be able to use. And we're going to jumper some things. Okay, so I can't hold it back up to the camera and test it at the same time, but let's find out if this, yeah, okay. Hold on a minute, we did something. Oh, shoot. Okay, being a linkable. Peacock is turned on. Turn Peacock off. Okay. Minor interruption while we activated this, and it gave us linkables and started reacting to a bunch of the other toys in the room here. Okay. That circle that I talked about out here. Okay. When I activate to that circle and the outside and the ring, the section of the ring closest to me. Okay. Bring this back to the camera, and this is the music button. Okay. This button, when jumpered to this ring, activates the toy, which is good. So this ring here, this side of this ring is this. These two are circuit board tied together, this part and this part. So if I jumper it between here and here, I get the reaction of activating the toy. So I'm going to leave this for a moment. We're going to go over and we're going to test this side. On this side, I predict the same thing is going to occur, that I'm going to be able to jumper this to the close side. Let's see if I'm right or wrong. Nope, to the far side. I'm going to jumper this to the far side. Oh, I forgot to, I didn't have it turned on. Let's try. If you're going to test something, you need to have power turned on. Okay, let's try this again. So we're going to jumper from here. Yes. Okay. Let's do, let's solder this together so it's a little better looking. I had a loose strand on that, and by soldering these, both of those nice and clean here, you can see there's no loose strands interfering. So let me double check this and then we'll bring it to the camera again. I'm going to take it from that ring, that spare spot, to the outside that's furthest from me. Okay. So
come on, let's see the ABC.
For this switch, this circle, jumper to this side, the far side over here. Okay. So this circle jumper to here activates that, because this circle is tied to this side. Okay. So let's see, comment. We're going to do another test. And on this one, I'm going to jumper all the way across this board. I'm going to jumper from here because I believe this is from here. No, let's see, we'll find out. I'm going to jump her from here all the way over to there. We're going to find out what's common. So it's from the open spot here. Okay. So something activated. I turned it off so I could start fresh. Something activated all the way across the board. And these two wires in here that I talked about, I'm going to jump her across those, and I'm just going to use a screwdriver because they're so close together. Okay. That activates this from here.
Show me the penguin.
Because now what it wants you to do is to rotate that dial until the penguin, as in penguin for P, appears through this window from the front side. Okay, so we're not doing that, so it's not going to function for us. Okay, so but that's what it's asking to have done, and so we know that these two will activate that.
It's the unicorn.
Now I turned it off again because what I want to do is find out if I attach to all three of my wires I'm bringing into here, will it activate across to that? So I'm going to put one side of this, no action, the other side, action. But turn it off so I can reset, start fresh. I want to go one side of this over to here. Oops, I don't have contact. Okay. All right. So here's what we've learned. Now, I know that the common practice is to say, oh, that's okay, this is exposed, jump to it. Solder your wires on here. The moment you do that, the factory activation is dead. I don't like doing that. I like adapting my toys so that the factory activation works as well as the adapted, because otherwise, how are you going to be able to test the toy if there's something not working right, if the switch isn't working? I want to be able to test the toy with the factory switches. So I do not like soldering to any of this, okay? We're going to leave that open bare. We're going to do the same thing over here. We're not going to touch this. I believe that all three of these switches can be accessed by using this dot, these 2 points, and this dot. And we're going to test that theory by starting to solder some stuff together. Okay, so there's something I didn't determine yet, and that is how are we going to get inside this toy with our cables? And so let's look at where should the cables be. So revisit. I'm going to pull that power supply off of here again. I'm just pinching this back side. Okay, I want to move that out of my way. Line up. I definitely have room on the other side of this. There's enough of a standoff. If you look in here, there's enough of a gap to run cables up inside of here without too much trouble. But we also realized that that battery pack is really close here, so we cannot come in this direction. So when I do set this back down, I have room to come in this direction or this direction. And this has got a lot of space on it that's not Yeah, not space out, not used for anything. I'm gonna bring my cables in this side. I'm checking over on the other part to make sure there's no interference. I'm gonna bring my cables in from this side, leave them long so that they can come over here. And yep. And activate these switches. Okay. So from the tail, I'm going to be bold on this and actually put all three of them in. I mean, I do not like limiting how the toy is used. I do not know what the capabilities are of the users and the caregivers, and why limit choices when we can solder this together, we can make an adapted toy for everybody. Okay. So and I know this is gonna be a long video, and I apologize for that, but what I try to do is not just show you how to adapt this toy, but how to maybe reason things out and adapt another toy, other toys, okay? So I've got my wires in there, and I need, when I solder this when I tie this up, I need for my wire to come in, one of them to go here, one to go here, and one to go here. So, and I don't want a whole bunch of excess wire in here, but I do want to have enough wire cable. So as you'll notice here, I'm using mono cable. It's only got 2 wires in it. It's red and black. Colors mean nothing except that there's 2 wires in here. Mono cable is the only thing you need when you adapt a toy. That's way too long. The only thing you need when you adapt a toy, because you only need 2 wires. As you can see here, one for each side of that switch. Okay. See, I'm putting to this point here, so that's still a bit long. It's not a big deal, but I'm going to run that wire underneath, and that gives me something for that one. This one here, I'm going to bring it to this junction wire, so my knot should be about there. Okay. Looks good. And this one is going to be the close one. This one is going to go right here. So it doesn't need to be very long at all. And again, I just do not want a whole bunch of excess wire inside. I could cut, excuse me, I could cut these back, and so that these were all nice and even. And for neatness, I would suggest that you do that. For this demonstration and tutorial on how to adapt this toy, I'm not gonna bother. Okay. So the long one, is that right? That's right. The long one is going to go. Oh, okay. I forgot something. I said, let's put this back together a moment. I said that I was going to go all common. All my black wires are going to go right here. And I use black wires, just one side of the switch. One side of the switch is going to go here. So for that, I need to have, let's go ahead and make them all the same length. Let's neaten it up, okay? I'll show you why in a moment here. I'm going to have to strip bunch this wire back anyway. So let's make them about the same length coming out of the toy. Okay. about the same length. All right. Okay. I have 3 of them the same length coming out of the toy. And this one here's the long, let's see, move these out of the way. This one's the long one, but I'm going to cut back and put one side of it right here. So I don't need it any longer than this. So let's get rid of the sheathing. Okay. This one here, I've determined is going to both go to here. So let's get rid of some sheathing back to about this far. And we'll be cutting this wire back about that far. Okay. This one is going to go here. So I can get rid of sheathing back to there. I got it. I did. Okay. And I want the black wire to go here. The red wire is going to go someplace in this vicinity. So let's just cut for the moment. There. Okay. All 3 of these black wires can be tied together because they're all going to go common. And this is where I'm taking a chance that on the other side of that circuit board, I have that common. Okay. I'm also, because I cut the red ones back, I'm going to tin them. So I'm going to go ahead and expose a little bit of that. And we're going to do some tinning before we get too far. Let's see. I'm going to pull these in so that I can work on them now that I've got it established for where I want for length. That one's okay. This one here. And that, turn my exhaust back on. Excuse me a moment. This one here. We're going to tin that up. Okay. So, and the tinning of it up helps a lot because when you start laying these wires down onto the connections and the like, if it's been pre-tinned, then it goes, you don't have to heat the solder up, or you don't have to heat the wire up again. It's already been preset, and the solder grabs to solder, and you've got to quickly make a good connection. Okay. So let's find out. And we're going to solder these together, which gives the tinning, and it holds all 3 of them together and makes them nice and neat to put onto that board. Okay, back to the board. Long one goes over there. These 2 are similar in length. One goes here, one goes there. All right, let's put this board back over. To hold the board over, I'm going to use my reverse tweezers. And I'm going to get a short piece of solder out here because I want to put a dab of solder on this point and this point, which I identified earlier. I'll be bringing this up to the camera when I'm done. Okay, so here's another advantage. I'm going to try and solder to this point, and I put a drop of solder there. Now that becomes a quick, easy solder point for my cable, my adaptive cable. We're going to do the same thing over here because this is what I said I wanted. That becomes a second solder point. And these 2 the one that's there's two of them here for this wire. I can identify one as being brown and one as being black. When I turn it over, the brown one is going to be over here on this side, right? The black one is going to be to the right. The brown one is where I'm going to solder all three of these to it. So cable management. All these cables are going to come in, go around here. I've got freedom to do it. I'm going to solder this off to the left side, camera left, as it will. And that is going to be right there. Okay. That is now soldered in place. The one that I said was going to go right next to it, one of them, is sitting here. Let's solder it down. Normally I would be using my tweezers for this, but I'm hoping that this would keep the board viewable to the camera. And we'll use this one. The long one goes over here to here, this solder point that I put down. And I have another red wire here. There we go. Another red wire. It's going to go to this solder point that I added to the board. Okay. So let's see if I messed it up. Let's turn the fan off. Let's hook up. We're going to do some testing. So let's hook up power. Okay, the fact that it went through some tones for startup means that's a good sign. Let's hook up some cables. I have my switches off camera, actually mounted to the side of my table here. And okay, one did not work. Let's see what this one is.
Show me the penguin.
Okay, so the one here that we connected to comes up here, does work. Okay. Bear with me a moment while I go to right. We'll turn it off. Back on. And try switch 3. Okay, so I did not wire it correctly. I'm thinking I have a 50-50 chance. Let's get the test wire out here again. Disconnect my switches. I had this wiring. Aha. Well, reset for a moment. Okay, when I'm testing this, you can't see this very well from all the way up there. I got red wire, and red wire. Those wires should have represented individual switches. All the black wires came from my cables were the common ones. So, yeah, hold on a minute. Okay.
Wow.
Shh. So I have got, when I jumper this, my fresh red wire to this red wire, it works. No, it doesn't. Nope.
Show me the penguin.
We made a mistake. That only activated the I'm back to doing a basic test. I've got something wrong. I'm not sure what it is yet. So I'm going to hook it to here in the outside, and that works. I've got it to here, and there. That works. Here, and that doesn't work. But here, let me take off the red and the black that I put onto this wiring. Disconnecting. And now there are these black ones, a little tension on it. So when I heat up the solder, it comes off. Okay. Let's try this again. I want, when this is connected to there, to do something, and it's not. No, it's not turned on. I want, when this is connected to here and here, to do something. All right, I think I'm 100% backwards on which I had a 50-50 chance. Let's find out what happens when I solder these to the black side. And this red one to this side, isolated. And plug our switches back in. And turn the power on. Okay, one of the switches just activated. What did it do?
Show me the penguin.
Okay, so that one's the center one. I'm going to turn it off to reset the toy. Turn it back on. I'm going to go to the next switch.
Let's sing the ABCs.
Okay, I just activated the the green button. Okay, I'm going to reset the toy, and now I should be activating. Okay,
Let's sing the ABC.
okay,
Sure.
all right. So here's what I did wrong, and here's how easy it was to fix. I think I mentioned I had a 50-50 chance. I'm going to disconnect all these switches so that I can bring this to the camera. Set the battery pack up here. Okay, so this one here, red, means that it's going to be activating this switch. The common on here was this black one, this one here on the right side. Right side looking at it from this orientation. Okay, you know, you if you open this up, you'll understand what we're looking at here. This is common. All three of my black wires are attached here from my adaptive cables. So once I had a common, this now jumpered across one side of this. This common is common to here and common to one of these. So now that the common is there, one of my cables adaptive switches runs here, one of my adaptive switches runs here, and the third adaptive switch runs up in here. Okay. That means that all three of these activation switches from the factory work. This can be put back together. It will function as factory intended. Okay. And we're done. So here's how you adapt the toy. This is the easy way of putting the common in. It doesn't matter whether you're going to run 1, 2, or 3. Solder it here. Solder one side of your switch here. If you're going to run 3 of them, solder one side of all 3 of your switches right here. Okay. On the other side of that, this switch is what's activated from here. This is the dial. The other side of your adaptive switches, the other 2 adaptive switches can go out here to activate the ABC. This is the ABC. And this is the music one. If all you want is music, solder one side of your switch here, the other side of your switch here, you have music. If you want ABC, solder one side of your switch here, the other side of your switch here, you have ABC. If you want the dial, solder one side of your switch here, one side of your switch here, you have the dial. If you want all 3 of them, solder one side of all 3 of your switches here. The other side of any individual switches, then solder them off on those 3. Okay. I notice I have a little solder hanging proud on right here. So I'm going to snip this. That's a good connection. Okay. I'm going to put these silicone pads back in place. I just reach behind it and pull it through. Let's see, this one here goes over here. Okay. I'm going to turn this back on. We're going to operate it with the factory switches. Turn it back on. Operating with the factory switches. Okay. And this is, this toy interrupts itself. Each time you press one of the switches, it stops what was going on. And here's the one for there. Okay, successful adaptation. putting it back together, I'm going to route my wiring so that it's on the top side of this post, so that it does not interfere with this dial or this button punching this button. Okay. If I put it over here, if I just lay them in willy-nilly, I could accidentally deactivate one of these. So we're going to carefully put this back together. Battery pack. Pull the wires up to the knot. Okay. This little black wire that sticks off to the side, that's the antenna for these toys. All these linkables have an antenna so they can communicate with each other. I'm going to, let's see, where did that go? Over to this side. So while my wiring up there, I'm looking underneath here as I reassemble this to make sure that nothing is pinched. Okay. I'm going to pick, before I put those screws down, I have freedom of the buttons. Good. Okay. Slide the battery pack in. Get the 3 screws that hold this back together. Oops. And I think I'm going to use my tweezers to hold these in place. While I screw them in. So I guess the other thing that's important is I made mistakes. They weren't fatal. They didn't stop me from finishing the toy, and they shouldn't stop you from continuing to adapt toys. It's not if a wire had come loose or I needed to solder it back up, then I could have done that. Okay, so I'm a little concerned about this wire. This one here, let's see if I pull. Hold on a minute. They're giving me some stress problem. My knots might not be in the right place. Okay. I need for this knot to be up against the wall. You know what I think I did? That's the other mistake I think I made. I think I took the long one and put it on the short. I did. But I had this thing turned over. Let's pull that battery pack off there for a second. When I had this thing turned over, you were probably looking at it saying, trying to yell, "Hey, Santa, you got the wiring backwards." You're right, I did. I went long when I should have gone short. So what's the fix for that? Let's see, we have a couple of options. Get the battery pack out of the way for a moment. This long one here is good. This one here is tugging on it. And this one, let's see. Why is that tugging on it? Was that one supposed to be on this side? It's exactly right. Okay. Get some relief on my cables again. Okay. So the black ones are all good. This one is very long and this one is very short. Right? Is that the one that's short? So what I need to do is to bring some more cable inside. Bring some more cable inside. Let's lay this back down. Let's make sure none of the wires are in the way of any activities, that the knots are good. Okay. That and that and that. And just because we're trying to make things a little neater, bring this one inside. Okay, now let's put those screws in. Okay, I see this cable looks like it's piled up in there. Let's flatten it out. Check function of our buttons. We're good. Battery pack. Power it up. And let's test it all before we get any further. One, two. Perfect. Okay.
Where's the unicorn? Unicorn. Let's find out. Come on, let's sing the ABC. Where's A? 1, 2, 3.
All right.
With me.
That's perfect. Okay. It's adapted.
Unicorn.
It's now time to snap the case back together. Committed. Okay.
Real. They're make-believe
Now,
and magical.
Oh, shoot, I forgot something, didn't I? Hey, see this? I think this is a really good time to put this in.
Unicorn. Look pretend. Prance, dance, and neigh like a unicorn. Ready, steady, go.
Sure glad I figured it out. And it was easy to do.
Come on, let's sing the ABC.
Okay, and that's how you adapt it. So,
Show me the penguin.
okay, well, thank you very much for watching, learning. I would, if I was doing this, I'd put a towel down or something because this is a lot of rubbing on the tabletop trying to figure this one out. Okay, thank you very much. Like and subscribe. Like shows me that you appreciate these, and the subscribe means you get the notifications every time I do one. Thank you. Thank you very much. Jerry from Santa Switch Adapted Toys.